Reality distinguished from illusion from the welfare of all. Such truth uproots the threefold miseries. This beautiful Bhagavatam, compiled by the great sage Vyasadeva in his maturity, is sufficient in itself for self-realization. It's sufficient in itself for God realization. What is the need of any other scripture? As soon as one attentively and submissively hears the message of Bhagavatam, by this culture of knowledge, the Supreme Lord is established within his heart. Nigamakapataru kalitam phalam Sukam kad amrita dravya sargatam Pibata Bhagavatam asam alayam Muhur ahoraska bhuvibhavakaha. O expert and thoughtful man, relish Srimad Bhagvatam, the mature fruit of the desired truth of Vedic literatures. It emanated from the lips of Sri Sukadeva Goswami. Therefore, this fruit has become even more tasteful, although its nectarian juice was already relishable for all, including liberated souls. Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 1, Chapter 9, text number 22. Yet, despite his being equally kind to everyone, he has graciously come before me while ending my life, for I am his unflinching servant. Purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. The Supreme Lord, the Absolute Personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna, although equal to everyone, is still more inclined to his unflinching devotee, who is completely surrendered and knows no one else as his protector and master. Having unflinching faith in the Lord is one's protector, friend, and master is the natural condition of eternal life. A living entity is so made by the will of the Almighty that he is most happy when placing himself in the condition of absolute dependence. The opposite tendency is the cause of fall down. The living entity has this tendency of falling down by dint of misidentifying himself as fully independent to lord it over the material world. The root cause of all troubles is there in false egotism. One must draw towards the Lord in all circumstances. The appearance of Lord Krishna at the deathbed of Bhismaji is due to his being an unflinching devotee of the Lord. Arjuna had some bodily relation with Krishna because the Lord happened to be his maternal cousin. But Bhisma had no bodily relation. Therefore, the cause of attraction was due to the intimate relation of the soul. Yet, because the relation of the body is very pleasing and natural, the Lord is more pleased when he is addressed as the son of Maharaja Nanda, the son of Yasoda, the lover of Radharani. This affinity by bodily relation with the Lord is another feature of reciprocating loving service with the Lord. Bhismadeva is conscious of the sweetness of transcendental humor, and therefore he likes to address the Lord as Vijaya Sake, Partha Sake, etc., exactly like Nandanandana or Yasoda Nandana. The best way to establish a relation in transcendental sweetness is to approach him through his recognized devotees. One should not try to establish the relation directly. There must be a via media, which is transparent and competent to lead us to the right path. Didn't we read this yesterday? Yeah, we read that yesterday. Okay, so, we didn't cover all of the purport, yeah. Yeah. Okay. Okay, so unflinching faith is something that is a very important theme in the Bhagavad Gita also. Shraddha Sabde Vishwasakaya Surida Nischai. This is a verse that explains what is unflinching faith. Let me see, this is in the 4th chapter, I think. Yeah, so Shadaval Labhate Jnanam Tat Para Samyatendriya. Jnanam Ladva Param Sanatim Achiren Adigachati. This is the 4th chapter, verse number 39. A faithful man who is dedicated to transcendental knowledge and who subdues his senses is eligible to achieve such knowledge. And having achieved it, he quickly attains the supreme spiritual peace. So the purport to this verse is very important. It says, such knowledge in Krishna consciousness can be achieved by a faithful person who believes firmly in Krishna. One is called a faithful man who thinks that simply by acting in Krishna consciousness, he can attain the highest perfection. This faith is attained by the discharge of devotional service and by chanting Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, which cleanses one's heart of all material dirt. Over and above this, one should control the senses. A person who is faithful to Krishna and who controls the senses can easily attain perfection in the knowledge of Krishna consciousness without delay. Well, this is the definition of faith. That is, one has the firm, let's say, belief and conviction that by acting in Krishna consciousness, he or she can attain the highest perfection of human life. Now, that's one thing, but one attains this faith by engaging in devotional service, and especially by chanting the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra, which cleanses the heart of all unclean things. And one has to, as it says, samyata indriya, samyatendriya. In other words, one has to control the senses and the mind. And so these are all components of, or these are all stepping stones to unflinching faith. So, if a person does have faith that serving Krishna with devotion will lead to attaining all of the perfection of life, then they will control the senses more easily than someone who doesn't have such faith and attain perfection in knowledge of Krishna consciousness without delay. So, there's a chain, let's call it a chain reaction here. Number one, one develops faith by associating with devotees who help the person understand the importance of devotional service. Then by engaging in devotional service, including chanting the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra regularly, one becomes purified of lust, anger, greed, all those things. And one's karma is virtually diminished to a point of being completely free of it. And then one begins to understand the knowledge of Krishna consciousness because of the clearing process that took place. And then one's faith becomes unshakable. It is, now the opposite is not true. Ajnas chastra dadanasya, some say atmavinasyati. Nayam lokosti na paro nasukam some say atmanaha. But ignorant and faithless persons who doubt the revealed scriptures do not attain God consciousness, they fall down. For the doubting soul, there is happiness neither in this world nor the next. So, without developing this faith, through association with devotees, by engagement in devotional service, and chanting Hare Krishna, and eventually developing knowledge of Krishna consciousness, by the mercy of the spiritual masters, that is, spiritual masters give what's called divya gyan, transcendental knowledge as opposed to mundane knowledge. Mundane knowledge makes you more of an unbeliever, and transcendental knowledge makes you a firm believer. So that's why material education is very dangerous, because it will always lead toward atheistic beliefs. But spiritual knowledge is absolutely necessary in order to develop faith and conviction and see the value of engaging in devotional service. Most people don't see the value. They think they're wasting their time in performing devotional service, because they could be spending that same time and energy making more money and having more sense gratification. But that's not what's being explained by Krishna. So, having unflinching faith in Supreme Lord as one's protector, friend, and master is the natural condition of eternal life. And the unnatural condition of material life is not having such faith in Krishna as the protector, friend, and master, and thinking that, my real protector is my money, my gun, and my friends that drink beer and gamble and have illicit sex. That's my real protector. But that's not true. And so a living entity is happy when they place themselves in a position of absolute dependence on the Lord. Absolute dependence. They don't depend on anyone else. They just depend on the Lord. So oftentimes people try and scare you, intimidate you. Oh, you're going to miss the opportunity of a career. You're going to miss the opportunity of making good money. You'll always be working and just live check to check. And no, you have to, study really hard. Learn about mechanical engineering or artificial intelligence, and that way you'll be a real man. Well, that's not necessarily true. People have existed for thousands of years without being involved in IT or without being a mechanical engineer, right? For millions of years, not thousands of years. However, working honestly, there's nothing wrong with working honestly and earning a living, but one should not be susceptible of forgetting Krishna and just now depending on working in some company and earning a salary. That is what happens when one lacks the association of genuine devotees. So this opposite tendency of not living in a condition of complete dependence on the Lord is the cause of fall down. The living entity has this tendency of falling down by misidentifying oneself or himself as they misidentify themselves as being fully independent. independent of the Lord and trying to control the material nature, which is what they're doing. They're trying to control the material nature, building dams, building bridges, building all these different things. And they think they can control nature, but it's not possible. Okay, so Prabhupada says the root cause of all troubles is there in false egotism. Well, we did see there's a slight difference in meaning between egotism and egoism. Egotism means that one thinks that they're superior to everyone else, and they condescend in their relationships with other people. Whereas someone who's an egoist is more concerned about themselves than others, but they don't necessarily think that they're superior. They may also, but then they become an egotist. But if they don't think they're superior, they're an egoist. So one little letter can make a big difference in the English language. Oh, and then also we did understand is that sometimes in common usage, spoken English, those two words sometimes are used interchangeably. But there still exists some nuance of difference in the meanings. So, when Krishna appears at the deathbed of Bhisma, it's because Bhisma is the unflinching devotee of the Lord. So, we should aspire to become unflinching devotees of the Lord. Then we'll be guaranteed to see Krishna at the moment of death. But in the meantime, we're seeing Krishna even now in the form of his deity. There's no difference between Krishna in the form of the Archa Vigraha of deity and Krishna himself. So there is some subtle thing is explained then in the last paragraph of the purport that Arjuna had some bodily relationship with Krishna. Is it the mundane body? You might think so. But even in the spiritual world, there are bodily relationships based on the spiritual body, not the mundane body. Because one has anything that's relational is based on some bodily concept. So Mother Yasoda thinks herself as the mother and protector of Krishna. So that is a way of experiencing more sweetness. So if we understand in this life everything is relational, and in the spiritual world everything is relational, because whatever is in this world is a perverted image of what's in the spiritual world. So there are relationships in the spiritual world based on the body, but the spiritual body, not the material body. And in the material world, there are relationships based on the material body. So, Prabhupada says, this affinity of bodily relation with the Lord is another feature of reciprocating loving service with the Lord. Bhisma Dev is conscious of this sweetness of transcendental humor, and therefore he likes to address the Lord as Vijaya Sakhe. Sakhe means friend. And Partha, I think that's what it means. Partha Sakhe. Exactly like Nanda Nandana or Yasoda Nandana. So Nanda Nandana means that Krishna is the son of Nanda Maharaj, and Yasoda Nandana means Krishna is the son of Yasoda Mai. So now Prabhupada says the best way to establish a relation in transcendental sweetness is to approach him through his recognized devotees. One should not try to establish the relation directly. There must be a via media, actually the exact word usually used by Prabhupada is transparent via media, which is transparent and competent to lead us to the right path. So the Prabhupada says, he gives the example that if you love me, love my dog. So we usually see, people walking down the street with their dog on a leash, and other people stop them, start petting the dog. Oh, what a nice dog you have. And that develops a relationship with an unknown person by petting the dog and complimenting the dog. You see? So in the same way, if you want to have a relationship with Krishna, then you should establish a relationship with Krishna's pure devotees. Then you will be able to do it. But if you try and do it directly, it won't really work. Why not? Because Krishna is Bhaktavatsala. Bhaktavatsala means he's the friend of his devotee. So, if you want to become a friend of Krishna, you should first make friends with his devotee. And there's a saying, any friend, it says that a friend of anyone whose friend is Krishna is a friend of mine. Right? So, or sometimes people say, my wife is your friend. And you say, well, any friend of my friend, and then the husband can say, well, any friend of my friend is my friend also. So you establish the relationship with Krishna with his devotees, who are, because Krishna is Bhaktavatsala, the friend of his devotees. So if you become friend of the devotee, you will also become friend of Krishna. So the best way to establish a relation in transcendental sweetness is to approach him through his recognized devotees, which should not try to establish the relation directly. There must be a via media which is transparent and competent to lead us to the right path. So a transparent via media means they do not create a wedge between you and Krishna. Rather, a wedge is something that blocks, right? Like you make a wedge, you put it underneath the door, it blocks the door from closing. Right? So the transparent via media, meaning the pure devotee representative of Krishna, is transparent. If you meet the pure devotee, you meet also Krishna, because he's not trying to say that he is Krishna. Whereas many of the modern gurus, false gurus in India, they try and put a wedge between you and Krishna by saying that they are Krishna. But the transparent via media of a pure devotee, he never says he is Krishna or God. He says he's the servant. And Prabhupada always said that he's the servant of Krishna. And therefore you learn who Krishna is in reality. Whereas if you meet a false guru, they'll try and convince you that they are Krishna. In other words, they're putting a wedge, they're putting a block between you and Krishna. Okay, are there any questions? So everything is relational in this world and in the spiritual world. But in this world, things are relational based on the mundane body, the material body. And in the spiritual world, everything is relational based on transcendental bodies. Hari Bol, all glories to Prabhupada ki